now for the reason that we're all here in this room, and that is instruction. And so tonight is our second budget presentation with regard to the school district for the 2015-16 year, and that is the instructional budget. The first slide that we have up, let me just digress for a moment. This is a snapshot of the current year's budget. Basically what you have there is the budget in several parts. Above that line, the gray line, are the expenses of the budget, and below the gray line are the revenue sources, the revenue streams that actually fund the expenses. So what you see in yellow has to do with the instructional budget and the areas that we'll cover tonight. The other two areas, the general support area, the transportation, the community services, the benefits and the debt service and so forth, were covered at the February 5th meeting. And then below that gray line, the revenue stream, we're going to talk about that on March 19th. So 2 weeks from tonight, we'll put both halves of the expenditure budget together and also talk about and discuss the revenue budget, which includes tax levy, state aid, local revenue, and reserves. Bob, we're not moving forward. Ah. Great, thank you. So first, some financial facts with regard to the school district. We've been engaged in a financial plan for the last 15 years. That financial plan, we've been able to prepare cost-effective and efficient budgets for our instructional program. We've actually eliminated the annual borrowing. So what we've been able to do through that financial plan is make more resources available to the instructional program and taken away some auxiliary costs such as interest costs. We've reduced the interest costs with regard to the school district. We've also implemented a computerized accounting system over that period of time early on, and in addition, implemented a very strong system of checks and balances and internal controls, which yielded us a very, very favorable audit report from New York State back in 2005, 2006. Those funding of reserve accounts has provided us, again, with adequate cash flow. And that adequate cash flow has enabled us to eliminate something called the tax anticipation note borrowing and literally reduce hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest costs on an annual basis to the school district. There is a report that comes out each year. It's called the Fiscal Stress Monitoring Report. It's a report that comes from the State Comptroller's Office, and basically what that report does, it comments and it reviews all districts, all of the 672 school districts in New York State, and determines which ones are fiscally stressed, ones that are in possibility or jeopardy of, for lack of a better term, going out of business. I'm proud to say that we are not on that list, but if we had not put the financial plan in place 15 years ago, and we had the same set of finances that we did 15 years ago, we would absolutely be on this list. For your information, there are 19 schools on Long Island that are on this list in some type of fiscal distress, and statewide there are 90 of the 672 school districts in some state of fiscal distress. We are in good shape and not in jeopardy of being on that report. It's also given us what's called a AA2 Moody's investment rating, a very, very good investment rating, which we have had upgraded numerous times in the past 15 years, which again allows us to significantly reduce the amount of money that the school district was spending on interest costs, okay, and rededicate those funds to the instructional program. Okay, so how do we spend our resources? 80.5% of our costs are spent on student programs, followed up by 12% of our costs in capital and facilities improvements, maintenance department, custodial, keeping the buildings up and running in good shape, and 7.5% is spent on administration. The chart that I have up here comes from a report called the Annual Study of School Costs. It's a report that Nassau BOCES produces and prepares each year. And what it does for all Nassau County school districts, it indicates the level of spending or per pupil cost that each district spends. And so what you have here is a graph for the 2013-14 school year, the last full school year that was operated, and it's the 41 K-12 school systems in Nassau County. The line that you see in red has to do with the per pupil cost for students in Massapequa schools, and as you see, it is the 8th from the bottom. So more easily said, we are the 8th lowest spending school system in Nassau County when it comes to per pupil cost. The median and average spending in the county is about $3,000 to $4,000 more. So if we were to spend at the average level of a district in Nassau County, you could take that $3,000 or $4,000 and multiply it by 7,200, and you come up with a number that is millions and millions of dollars more that our budget would increase by if we spent at the average of districts in Nassau County. So more easily stated, we are a very efficient spending school system and a very effective school system. The next chart, again, right from this report, pulls out a little data from the total, and that has to do with the general support, or we'll say it a little bit differently, the administrative spending per student. Again, in this particular analysis, we are the 5th or 6th lowest spending school system in Nassau County, spending about $600 per student less than the average school system spends on general support costs. Again, illustrating that the school district spends very wisely in those areas. This is some statistical information with regard to enrollment. You can see that in the 2014-15 year, the current school year, we have an enrollment as of our day in October when we report to the state of 7,240 students. The district has done a comprehensive enrollment forecast. That enrollment forecast is based on a method called the cohort survival method of enrollment forecasting, a very accurate method to determine your enrollments moving forward for probably a 5 to 6 year period. In 2015-16, we're anticipated to drop by about 114 students, and in 16-17, another 136 students. Again, we have classes coming in at under 500, and we're graduating classes of 600 and change. So this demographic shift is going to continue out, and we're probably expected to land somewhere 2 years from then, right around the 6,700 level, okay? We update our enrollment forecast annually, and so as we get new live birth data from year to year, we can get a more accurate projection and go out a little bit further. But the district has been, for the last couple of years, in a situation where it's been declining enrollment, really as a result of not anything to do with the school system, but just the demographics and population in general. Very, very consistent with other similar demographic districts on Long Island. And now getting into some specific information regarding the last budget that we spoke about and the budget tonight. All right, so what are some of the drivers that pertain to the 2015-16 budget? In the last analysis, in the last meeting, we saw that pension costs are anticipated and will go down significantly next year. We found out in February from the teachers' retirement system that the contribution rate for the retirement systems is going down by approximately 24%. So in that particular category, you can see that our costs next year are anticipated to go down by about $3.5 million. Health insurance is expected to go up, and an increase that represents about 3.5%. So you see it's going to add about $671,000. One of the ways that the district has been successful in reducing its costs is by becoming more efficient when it comes to natural resources. And we are just in the process of finishing up a phase 2, what's called an energy performance contract. That energy performance contract has modernized a lot of the electric, the heating systems within the schools, the temperature control systems in the schools. So we're able to take $159,000 out of the utilities line that represents gas, electric, and fuel oil. Contracted transportation is another area. We're going to be possibly transporting less students. We have hired a transportation director who has been with us now for about 2 years, and she is a routing expert, so she has been able to look at our routes and provide the same level of service and also save some money as well. So we're taking $270,000 out of the contracted transportation line. There's an increase in district-wide security. We have put a dedicated security person up at our command center that's located at the Hawthorne School to look at, review cameras district-wide at the elementary level and door access and so forth. So that combined with some additional security enhancements represent an increase of $50,000. Unemployment insurance, we're able to take $175,000 out of that line. That's a good thing. It means that we believe that we will not have a need to excess as an increase in that line might represent. When it comes to district meetings or vote, it means the budget meeting or the vote meeting each year has to be increased by $34,000 because next year or next May, you won't be able to use the old lever machines. We're going to be required to have to vote with the computerized voting as you do in the general elections, and that requires preparing and providing a ballot for each registered voter in the community. So really the supply cost as well as the equipment rental cost, that's an increase of $34,000. Next year, our 5-year building condition survey is due, so we had to add $50,000 to the building inspection line. All right. So with regard to the instructional budget, there is an increase of $2,687,000, and unfortunately, what's cut off at the bottom that you can't see, wish we had put that screen down a little further. Overall, the budget is not increasing at all. It is a 0% increase in percentage and in dollars overall. We will continue to operate all programs and services with some enhancements as well in the area of technology and so forth. So it's the first time in 15 years of developing budgets, presenting budgets, where I'm able to say to the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the community that our budget is flat, 0% increase, 0% new dollars, and also maintain and enhance the quality and the programs and services in the school district. I don't think that many districts in the tax cap era can say that with regard to where we've been over the last couple of years with the tax cap and other districts that have lost significant programs and services. So that's a really, really good thing. There is a line-by-line budget that the board has, and that has been online available at our website, that I'd like to ask the Board of Education questions that they may have.
Okay, board members, we'll start with page 1. That is starting with line 61 through 74. If you have questions. I have a question, Mr. Adcock. Are there any new positions on this page?
There are no new positions on the page.
Okay, any board members? Questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next page. That is line 75 through 92. Any questions?
Let me start off by saying on this page, in line 77 and 78, you do see some significant increases in substitutes as well as monitors. Let me just start with monitors. As a result of individualized education plans that require health monitors, you see an increase in monitors. Again, much of that is IEP driven. Also as a result of, in a previous year, we did take a considerable amount of money out of that line. So we find that we need to restore that money. Again, we have had to hire many health monitors to serve our students. with regard to the substitute line, that had also been a line in the past where we had taken some money out. And we find that it's necessary to restore that money that had been taken out in the past to better reflect the level of need in that line.
Ms. Dykoff, do you have a breakdown of the monitors versus health monitors?
Yeah, we can absolutely get that. In developing the budget, we do put an analysis together. I don't have it to share with you right now, but we can absolutely provide that.
Can we see those lines on the screen?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, my fault.
And the salaries for the substitute teachers, where mainly will that, or is there a need for the substitute teachers?
Yes, absolutely.
No, where primarily?
Well, it's spread amongst all of our 9 buildings.
Okay, on all levels.
Yep.
Okay. I have a question on the BOE services, line 84,
Yes.
that we're holding flat. Do we know what the actual is so far with the 2014-15?
Yes, I do. I have a breakdown here of spending in line 84 for the current year, and right now we are at $1,131,149. And I also have a listing of the services that are included in that line.
And what are the services that are included?
We have outdoor environmental exploratory, Long Island High School for the Arts, Twilight program. There's a summer arts academy, a springboard, bilingual assessments, a program called Optiplex, model schools. There are required mandated state reporting through BOCES in that line, Northwest Evaluation Associative, My Learning Plan, Data Warehouse, state assessments, test scoring, health and safety.
Okay, so we don't anticipate an increase,
No,
requiring an increase.
no. We're again, with regard to this, you can see in the 2013-14 year, we spent $1,124,140 in that line. We're currently at $1,131,148. We anticipate that the budget that's there, $1,245,000, would be sufficient.
Okay. And I have a question in line 83, we're budgeting a decrease. Is that tied into the Chromebook initiative?
No, basically that decrease, again, with regard to equipment, supplies, and textbooks, we provide those on a per diem basis, so it is a fixed dollar amount times the enrollment, and as I mentioned, the enrollments are decreasing next year, so it's just tied directly to the decreased enrollment.
Okay. Is it tied to enrollment for 81 also, the instructional supplies?
Yes, 81, and there's an instructional equipment line, that would be line 79 as well.
Which line is that?
79.
79?
Yes.
Is there any savings in the budget associated with the Chromebook that's directly related in the budget?
Well, certainly, I think Mrs. Schilling may be able to speak on that, but I don't. There isn't anything with regard to any material savings that we can identify. I think down the road, certainly when it comes to adoptions of new text and so forth, that's probably where that type of an initiative will be more valuable, more cost effective.
Yeah, we're too early along to get into substitution aspects where you're saving money by not buying, for example, a textbook because you're doing it online. It's still too early in the process for that.
Okay. Okay, are there any additional questions on page 2? I just have one more question on line 92, on the BOCES tuition.
Again.
I see that that's going up.
Again, that is an estimate. That particular line has to do with out-of-district placements for special education students to BOCES. You can see that in the prior year we spent $4,897,486. So it was recommended that we put some additional funding in the BOCES tuition line.
Have their tuition rates for BOCES gone up in the
Well,
last couple
typically
of years?
they are indexed from year to year, 2% or so, but we have not received the specifics on those changes in tuition rates yet. But historically, we see that the rates go up a small amount each year.
Okay. When do they normally give you the rates?
They should be giving us the rates shortly.
Sure. Okay. Okay, any other questions on this page? Okay, we're going to move along to the next page. This is the page starting with line 94 and ending at line 113, starting with occupational education and ending with summer school. Any questions from the board members? Okay, I have a question on line 94 with the occupational education teachers.
Yes, I believe that was a decrease in FTE?
Yes.
Yes, it's a decrease of a part-timer.
A decrease in part-timer. Why are we decreasing?
We actually decreased over the summer, so it's just reflecting what we did over the summer when we changed our sections. So
Okay.
for what we have this year is going to remain for next year.
Okay. How is our enrollment? The number of children? Good? It's good? Strong?
We're still working on our sections, but we're holding strong.
Okay. Okay. Continuing education, 101.
Sure. Continuing education is our adult continuing education program. And basically, I'm pleased to report that the program is continuing to be successful. And what you see there is just reflective of the community's support for the program and needing more continuing adult education teachers. And so the increase in the salary line just has to do with more programs, more continuing ed programs that are running, which are supported and paid for by fees and tuitions that you don't see in this section of the budget, but you will see in the next section of the budget. So again, it's a self-supporting program, and the increases here will correlate to increased fees and participation in the adult education program.
Okay. So we've always covered our expenses
Yes.
with our revenue. Okay. I see on line 106, the summer school salaries.
Yes, it's really two parts to those salaries. It has to do with the instruction with regard to the non-contracted or non-vendor part of the driver education program, as well as the in-house monitors and TAs that we use for our in-district summer school. So you can see that the last year we spent approximately just over $36,000. We needed to probably this year put some more appropriation in there, and that's what we've done in the new budget to reflect the actual cost of not only the driver ed program, and again, that's not the contractor, which is East Meadow Driving School. It's the in-district staff that work with the driver education program, as well as the monitors and TAs for the summer school, the secondary summer school.
Okay, because that's a large increase.
Again, it's again
8% increase.
Yeah, it's as a result of just utilization of the program, not as a result of increases to one specific or group of people. It just has to do with the utilization rate of the secondary summer school.
Okay. Can I get a further breakdown on that
Sure.
line? Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Adcock, on that one, just going back to it 1 second, 106. that line that you were just speaking about.
Yes,
You said the TAs and the monitors are included in that line?
for summer.
Okay. But,
With the driver ed.
With the staff allocated to the driver ed program.
okay, but we have a separate line for the driver ed program now.
That has to do with, that only has to do with the contracted. We have a
Okay,
contract with
gotcha.
East Meadow Driving School.
Yeah,
that-
I got it.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Line 94 to 113. Okay, we're moving to the next page, starting with line 114 and ending at line 132, beginning with instructional media libraries and ending with guidance regular school. Any questions from board members?
I have a question.
Mr. Labella?
127 for the salaries adjustment,
Yes,
it's 4.67. Is that because of step increases?
it's contractual. We're in next year will be the last year of the current contract for teachers, and that is a contractual increase with regard to the increase in step associated with the guidance staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Adcock?
Yes.
Line 120, can you explain the increase in salaries? Is that some new full-time positions related to the Chromebook, or?
Again, that's, when you look at the staff that's in there, it has to do with the contractual increases for staff that are in there based on step and salary increases.
The two TLC positions you're referring to are back in the instructional salary lines from the first page, or second page, excuse me.
So,
Two TLC positions that the board authorized this year are actually in the teacher lines from the second page, either secondary or elementary.
Understood. Thank you.
What lines are those, Mr. Schilling?
They are on lines, what was that? 76?
76?
Correct. 75 and 76. 76.
That's where the two extra positions?
Correct.
Again, Mr. Adcock, on line 126, BOCES. That is for,
yes, there are a number of initiatives in there as it pertains to the technology program. I have a listing here of those. Distance learning, video conferencing, Castle software and Castle Learning Online, streaming and discovery education, microcomputer repair. We also hire from BOCES or through BOCES tech support and the software package Haiku. There is, let's see,
Power School.
yeah, Chromebooks. There's a large initiative in there, $817,000 as it pertains to Chromebooks. One of the most cost-effective ways of purchasing these Chromebooks is through Nassau BOCES, because the district receives back approximately 40% of the cost in the form of BOCES aid. And so by spending this money through Nassau BOCES for specific initiatives, as well as these other initiatives, the district receives back a revenue stream in the following year. And so we use that revenue stream to support the ongoing initiative, particularly of technology things such as the Chromebook or the one-to-one initiative.
mhm. Is there anything in the, oh, that's right, we don't have state aid runs in the budget. Is there anything in there according to the BOCES?
Well,
We don't know
yes,
that.
Here's what I
Is
know.
it still
here's-
40%?
Here's what I know about state aid. Okay, I know that they have not, at least so far, they have not talked or touched BOCES aid when it comes to state aid. But basically, they've taken the approach that we're not going to tell you what we're going to give you next year, but just use what you currently know you're getting in this year, the current year, for your state aid projection. So in 2 weeks from now, when we speak about the revenue, I will go a little bit more in depth as it pertains to state aid, and we will be closer to that April 1st deadline that the state has for adopting a budget. So you may, again, I don't know, but at some point, once the Senate and the Assembly develop their own budgets, and there is some type of an agreement amongst the Senate, the Assembly, and the Governor's office as to what the budget is going to be, what's the budget that's voted in, at that point, we'll probably get the state aid run.
Because that could be an impact, being that we're purchasing so many services from BOCES. If they do change that level of aid,
Well,
that could directly impact us.
I have to tell you that the state has been very, very supportive of shared services. And so BOCES is one of the largest ways that a district in a region can share services. So it would be somewhat contradictory for the state to say, no, we're not going to reward you, we're going to penalize you for using BOCES because they're promoting shared services through BOCES to purchase goods and services. So we've been doing that. It's cost effective, and I have not heard anything with regard to them undermining BOCES aid for next year.
Okay, thank you. What type of, on line 132, is BOCES guidance information services? What type of services are those?
Sure. Yeah. Line 132 is tech support and Naviance. I have to tell you that Naviance is just an incredible program that has been promoted and is continuing to be promoted through our guidance and pupil personnel department, in that students can go, they can take an exam and answer questions, and then they can get feedback as to where their interests lie. I know my own family, my son has recently done that, and it has opened his eyes as to where his natural abilities and where his interests lie, so he can better focus on what to pursue and what interests him. So I have to tell you, it's a wonderful, wonderful program.
I would agree. We use it also in our house, and it's an eye opener once you take a look at that. It's an excellent program.
I second that. Excellent.
So that line right there, that's the tech support on the program?
Yes, it is. It's the Naviance and the overall guidance tech support through the COSER, Cooperative Service Agreement with Nassau BOCES.
Okay.
That also includes, Mrs. Ryan, the regular process for the guidance department to digitize student records for easy access by the staff. So we use BOCES to digitize the paper records of the kids over the year. So that's in there as well.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for board members? Okay, we're going to move to the next page, starting with line 133, ending at line 149, starting with health services and ending with interscholastic athletics. Questions from board members? Okay, I have a question on line 138, the salary psychologist.
Yes.
Is that an increase in FTEs or positions?
No, it isn't. It's the same FTEs, and again, the increase there is reflective of the contractual increase that's in place through the teacher's contract.
Do we need to add more psychologists, social workers within the school?
That's not being projected at this time.
That's one of the major things that was discussed in terms of school safety up in Washington, that the federal government should pay for more support services and preventive services for children within the schools. Okay. I know, that's true. Can you answer, Mr. Adcock, line 149 on the BOCES, the game officials?
Sure. Those are through the Interscholastic Athletics Program in coordination with Nassau BOCES. Those are the referees, or the fees for the referees as it pertains to the Interscholastic Athletics Program. And the coordination of those referees through Nassau BOCES, the scheduling and so forth. Section 8.
Just when you get a chance, can I get a total of all the services that are included, what part of our budget is with BOCES?
Sure, I can prepare a report just by BOCES codes.
Right.
And be glad to do that, yes.
I'd like to.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from board members?
Alan, overall, are there any additional FTEs or decrease in FTEs throughout the whole budget that we've looked at tonight?
The only change, in addition or other than some contingency positions that are in there, there was a reduction in an FTE, at least in this portion of the budget, in the last budget we looked at, as a result of a retirement and the person who replaced that position being paid for completely out of federal funds. So, no, there is not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also want to just quickly go over and just remind the community and the board, if you look at our budget increases for the last 5 years, not including the zero here, they probably average right around 2%, just maybe slightly over 2% if you average from the 2010-11 year through the 2014-15 year. So our budget increases over the last 5 years, not including what's proposed, have been, for lack of a better term, at the tax cap-like level. And, this budget is a zero increase. So I think that's a real good place to be.
Okay, any other questions on that page? We're good? I would just like to ask a question about the zero tax increase.
Well, it's a zero budget
The zero budget increase, the expense. No, yay!
We're going to talk about taxes, and that's the next meeting.
The zero budget increase, in light of the tax cap
Yes.
and the renewal, which is expected to the tax cap.
Well,
it's
the
up for
tax
renewal.
cap, certainly politically, the tax cap is very popular. The governor's proposal is, originally it was tied to rent control in New York City. I believe that expires next year. And so his initiative is to make it a permanent type thing.
No, I'm just concerned with how that places us in line going into the next couple of years.
Sure.
And our ability, because we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know how much state aid that we're going to get.
Correct.
Or what other expenses are going to be thrust upon us that are not going to be paid for.
We expected the tax cap this year to actually come in significantly lower than what it actually came in at. Okay, we filed on just before March 1st, on the Friday before March 1st, we filed with the New York State Comptroller's Office our tax cap number, and that's 1.81%. We expected several months ago, and just looking at the CPI increases from year over year or month over month, that it would have been significantly lower. However, the state came out with a tax cap increase that many of my colleagues have saying, well, why is it that number? But it is what it is. So at our next meeting, I'm going to be discussing that tax cap. We're going to be looking at the amount right now in the current year of fund balance and reserves that we dedicate to our revenue stream. and I'm going to be making a proposal that helps, for lack of a better term, reset us as it pertains to how we use fund balance and reserve accounts to position us beyond the 2015-16 year to possibly be able to weather a storm, because there will be a point in time where that CPI index does catch up and the state recognizes that we've seen fuel oil and prices at the gas pump and so forth go down significantly, particularly in the last quarter of 2014. And at some point, that has got to be reflected in the CPI number. And when that comes, we may have, like we did, it was either 4 or 5 years ago in the year before the tax cap came in, we actually had a negative CPI. So if the tax cap had been in place in that year, we would not have been able to increase taxes because it was a zero, unless there was, that supermajority override, which I don't think is very popular amongst communities in this environment. So I'm going to be discussing how we, better position ourselves or position ourselves well out for the next 3 to 5 years as we move forward and possibly deal with a permanent tax cap.
Right, because I'm concerned, we haven't gotten to your presentation yet, but I'm concerned that is one of the things that has enabled us to be in such good fiscal shape, is the fact that we have reserves for a AA Moody's rating and for us being able to borrow. I'm just concerned with us using too much of our reserves, and not replenishing them going down the road.
I think then, certainly if that's a concern, and your fellow board members, then I think the presentation on at the next board meeting at the 19th, I believe it's the 19th, that you should be pleased at what the recommendation is.
And how, with the zero tax increase and all, how does that fall into the governor's initiative with the rebates to individuals? He has a plan that we have to reduce our expenditures by 1%.
Sure.
Is that still in place?
It is. Certainly the school district was successful in the state's tax freeze program this year, which was year 1 of the tax freeze program. And basically the criteria was, from the perspective of the school district, that we stay at or below the cap, since the cap's been in place, and we've done that.
Okay.
Year 2, we have to demonstrate, going back and using the 2012-13 year's taxes as a base, savings equal to 1% of the tax levy. And so we have been looking at that, and we are going to be partnering with some other districts. But even standalone, I think that we're able to demonstrate that we have achieved that, since the 2012-13 year. And this, with some of the reductions that we've made, continued reductions in utilities, et cetera, will just reinforce that number.
When does that have to be filed? Is there a filing with the state?
Yes, I believe the filing date is June 1st. Okay. So we have some time to be able to certify that. The superintendent by June 1st has to certify that tax freeze for year 2.
And that will give the community another tax rebate?
It would. It would give the community a tax rebate to the extent that their taxes increase. Now, again, tax increases are determined by a number of factors. One, certainly, is what our increase is, but almost more significant than that has to do with how an individual's assessment changes from year to year, or if it doesn't change, and what the total assessments within the community do, whether they go up or down. In many cases, and what I've seen since the county changed its assessment system, is that's often more material from one year to the next in determining what someone's taxes are. But with regard to that, no matter what someone's taxes go up under the tax freeze program, they will be compensated. I believe the household income has to be below $500,000 to be eligible for it, and the school district has to file and demonstrate how it saved 1%, an amount equal to 1% of its tax levy since the 2012-13 school year. And I believe that we will be able to do that, demonstrate that.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Adcock.
Sure.